Well, great. Well, thank you all for being here. I can't tell you what a privilege it is to be in front of all these amazing professionals. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Leni Rivera, and I am a workplace experience specialist. What that means is I specialize in creating physical environments that allow workers to thrive in every way possible. Now, I do have my own company called Workplace Experience Group, through which I help people to build workplace experiences for companies. But it's also through that company of mine that I help empower workplace professionals to become chief workplace officers. Now, I know that sounds highfalutin, and I know that sounds like far-fetched, but I firmly believe that it's about time that companies all around the world have a chief workplace officer representing our great industry in the C-suite, and I'm determined to make that happen. So that is what I do on my personal time. I also work for a company called Newmark, which I absolutely love. And in addition to working for a great team and great people, I am a managing director for workplace strategy and human experiences. So that means that I get to help clients build workplace experiences for their companies to allow their people to thrive in every way possible, especially in this hybrid environment. Please come on in. Please come on in and sit down next to people, make a friend. Everybody's happy and friendly. They all had their coffee. Cool. I am also an author. I have written and published a book on workplace experience. I have a training program on workplace experience, and I'm a keynote speaker on the topic. I've spoken at events, conferences, classrooms. I've been featured on television, radio, podcasts, global publications. I myself write for global publications. In other words, I am very passionate about being a champion and a torchbearer for our workplace industry and for empowering workplace professionals to become the leaders that our great industry needs. So that's a little bit about my background. Of course, I would be remiss without mentioning that I'm also mom to 2 monkeys, AKA cats. And if you have cats, you know that they are really monkeys in disguise. So that's a little bit about who I am. I'd like to get to know who's in the room with me today. How many of you are facility managers? I want to see. We're all okay. I love it. Yoo-hoo! I love it. I'm so happy because this talk is really dedicated to all of you. So it's good to see many facility managers. Do we have any real estate folks in the house? Anyone real estate? Okay, fantastic. Do we have any workplace services? Oh, wow! Oh, we have like a competition now going on. Do we have safety and security? Any safety and security? Oh, rock on. How about project managers? Construction project? Wow! Full house! This is amazing. Okay, great. Am I missing anyone? I don't know. This is fantastic. Okay, how many of you work for a company that has a hybrid policy?
Let's go.
All right, there you go. That's pretty much all of us. And we're certainly not alone. I mean, companies all across America are starting to settle into this new post-pandemic work arrangement reality. And for the most part, that's hybrid. Now, while hybrid seems to be the winning choice among company policies, we also find that the need for a workplace to support these policies remains relevant. The good news is that even in a hybrid environment, the need for a company workplace is not going anywhere. Let's take a quick look at what some of the data tells us about this. This is from the work from home research. Now, many of you are familiar with the work from home research, but for those of you who aren't, the work from home research is by Nick Bloom and his team in Stanford University. And what they do is they take a look at worker behavior in this hybrid environment, in particular those who are working from home and those who are working in their company workplace. Well, this is our most recent data as of September, so just last month. And we can clearly see that the vast majority, or 61% of workers, are working full-time on their company workplace, followed by 26% that are working hybrid, and even fewer than that are working fully from home. Now, it's important to be mindful that the work from home research takes a look at worker behavior across many different industries. So while these workers are working in the company workplace, these company workplaces may or may not be an office. Okay, so they're still workplaces, they're still places that people work in that's owned and managed by a company. They just may or may not be an office. Regardless, that's still a whopping 87% of workers that are relying on their company workplace as a place to work. At least some of the time, at least. And here's something interesting. The same researchers took a look at workers that have an option to work from home. So they looked at workers that have jobs that allow them to work from home and work for companies that have a policy that allow them to choose if they want to work from home or work in the company workplace. And what they found is that 1/3 of these workers are choosing to work in the company workplace full-time. The majority of them are choosing to work hybrid, and in fact, nearly 80% of workers that have a choice to work at home are choosing to work in the company workplace. So clearly for workers, the need for a company workplace remains relevant. Now what about companies? If this is what workers are thinking, what about companies? What are companies thinking in terms of the need for a company workplace? This is from the US Flex Index. Now, many of you are familiar with this data, but for those of you who aren't, the US Flex Index is by Scoop Technologies. And what they do is they take a look at all of the different remote work policies of companies all across America. And this report categorizes those policies into 3 categories. The first category, which you see as fully flexible, that represents companies that have a policy that allow workers to choose if you want to work from home or work in the company workplace, up to you. The second category, which represents the largest of the 3 categories at 38%, is the structured hybrid category. And that represents companies that have a policy where the company chooses when or how often workers need to be working in their company workplace. And that last category over there, that orange bar, represents companies that have a policy that require workers to be working in their company workplace full-time, 5 days a week. So when we look at that data, that's actually 71% of companies in America today that have a policy that requires their workers to be working in their company workplace, at least some of the time. And that first category up there, fully flexible, now that's not lost on us either, because the previous data just told us that the vast majority of those folks are also choosing to work in the company workplace. So if I throw in that employee's choice at 23%, which is roughly 80% of that first category, that's a whopping 94% of companies in America today that have a policy involving workers working in their company workplace at least some of the time. So clearly for companies, the need for company workplace remains relevant. Now, while company policies are seemingly settling into this new post-pandemic hybrid policy reality, what we find is that even though company policies may be settling into hybrid and how people are going to be using their workplaces, the decisions on how these workplaces support these policies and support workers working within these policies is another story entirely. I mean, many workplace leaders, in fact, are currently finding themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place in this current hybrid environment. Because with fewer people coming to the office, fewer days a week, on one hand, they have their finance leaders pressuring them to renegotiate their office leases, reduce office size, reduce operations costs. And on the other hand, they have their HR leaders pressuring them to make decisions on bringing people back to the office, increase your workplace experience to bring people back to the office. And whatever decision they make, the consequences of that decision fall squarely on their head. Talk about pressure, right? Gosh, and to top it off, it feels like nobody in the C-suite even understands what you do. Nor do they really understand what workplace is and all the many decisions that are involved in running, managing, operating, and even leading a workplace, right? Gosh. And with 94% of companies in America that have a policy involving workers working in the company workplace some of the time, you'd think more emphasis would be placed on understanding what you all do and what decisions are involved in transforming physical spaces into thriving hybrid environments. But hey, I think everyone in this room can relate to being underdogs in our organization, am I right? But for how long are we going to be okay with that? the one thing the pandemic shook up in the world of work is workplace. And we know workplace. Today, 4 years later, even in a hybrid environment, the need for a workplace remains relevant. Only now, workplaces are no longer what they used to be, because the ways people use them are no longer the ways they used to be. So the call to transform the workplace to meet this moment is ours to answer. The title of my presentation today is The Call for a New Breed of Leader in FM. Now, the way that I'm going to do this is I will begin by laying out 3 facts. 3 facts that are commonly overlooked or misunderstood by company leaders, but which everyone in this room knows to be true. I will emphasize and re-emphasize these facts because at the end of my talk, these 3 facts will demonstrate why you, the FM, are in the best position to answer the call for a new breed of leader to lead in this new era of a hybrid workplace. So let's begin. Fact number 1, the decisions on a company workplace have a vital impact on business success. Company workplaces impact businesses financially in 3 important ways. The most commonly understood ways are by way of CapEx, as a physical asset, and OpEx, or the operating costs associated with the physical asset. But many companies stop there. They perceive their company workplaces as cost centers, and that's it. But even long before the pandemic, we've also known that the physical work environment and all its many aspects, design, maintenance, lighting, temperature, technology, have a direct impact on employee behavior and their ability or inability to drive business success. That's why company workplaces have a vital impact on businesses, because they are both cost centers and value centers for their organization at the same time, which is especially important as organizations are shifting into a hybrid environment. Now, as cost centers, this shift into hybrid work has allowed the world to see many great examples of how the decisions on a company workplace are contributing to business success through significant cost optimization efforts. In fact, according to Global Workplace Analytics, nearly 60% of employers identify cost savings as a significant benefit to remote and hybrid work. They even estimate that if employees that have jobs that allow them to work remotely do so, even half of the week, that companies could see an average cost savings of around $11,000 per employee per year. Companies such as Cisco, American Express, and Dell are among the dozens of companies that have reported multi-million-dollar savings annually by optimizing their operations costs and real estate footprints due to their hybrid environments. And I'm sure everyone in this room has your own examples of how the hybrid environment has allowed us to optimize our operations costs. And I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room also knows that it's not just about cost savings. It's about making the right decisions on which costs to optimize. Now, while being a cost center allows company workplaces to contribute to companies to help them achieve healthier bottom lines, that's not the only way they're able to do that. Company workplaces also help companies achieve this success as significant value centers. The Gensler Research Institute does a really great job of demonstrating this through their Global Workplace Survey. Now, they did the survey last year, they did it again this year. I hope they keep on doing it because this research is really valuable insight. Because what the Gensler Research Institute does is they take a look at companies all around the world that have a hybrid policy, and they compare companies that transform their workplaces as part of their hybrid policy against companies that have a hybrid policy but do nothing, make no changes to their workplaces. Well, they evaluate these workplaces based on 2 factors: space effectiveness and functionality, including having a variety of space types, and the overall workplace experience. And what they found is these workplaces that were transformed as part of the hybrid policy were high-performing workplaces, versus those that were not transformed were low-performing workplaces. The impact that these high-performing workplaces had on the individual workers' performance, especially those that had access to a variety of space types, is significantly higher than workers who were working in workplaces that were not transformed as part of their hybrid policy. And that's not all. The impact that these high-performing workplaces had on teams, and on team relationships, and on team productivity, as well as on the organization itself, including quality of work and speed in decision-making, is equally staggering. I'll let you all take a picture first. Clearly, in this new environment where 94% of companies in America have a policy involving workers working in the company workplace some of the time, clearly, the decisions on a company workplace, both from a cost optimization perspective as well as a value add to the organization, has a valuable and invaluable impact on business success. Fact number 2. The success of a workplace environment requires the involvement of all workplace functions. While many company leaders may underestimate the value that company workplaces have on bringing or just contributing to business success, the second biggest thing they underestimate is the sheer size of the workplace industry required to drive this success. Achieving such huge goals for an organization as both a cost center and value center at the same time requires the involvement of all corporate functions whose primary focus is the physical work environment. Let's draw this out. When a company makes a decision on a hybrid policy, and we think about the cycle of decisions that run a workplace to support this policy, this is typically the cycle that we see. We start with developing a workplace strategy, or a strategy for the workplace or the physical work environment to support workers working within this new hybrid policy. We make sure that the workplace strategy is aligned with the company culture, the values, and the business direction. And then we transact on that strategy, carrying that strategy out in capital investments, such as through the decisions on corporate real estate, making sure we find the right size of the space, the right location of the space, its proximity to amenities, to commute distances, etc. We also make sure that it includes the decisions that are involved in interior design, to make sure that there is space effectiveness and functionality and a variety of space types. We also incorporate the decisions on construction project management, making sure that these spaces are properly built out on time and within budget. We also make sure to incorporate efforts towards sustainability, to make sure that we remain responsible to the planet. And we also make sure that that physical work environment also supports diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And then, once that space has been constructed or renovated, then we operate the space. And that contains the many daily, monthly, even annual decisions that are required to effectively and efficiently maintain, manage, and operate the space, as well as keep the space safe and secure, as run by the functions of facility management and safety and security. And then there's the continuous enhancement of the space, which evolves as employee behavior evolves. And this contains the many different decisions, programs, services run by functions such as workplace services, which runs coffee programs, food and beverage, workplace events, etc., as well as workplace technology, which makes sure that that physical environment also has a robust digital experience. Now, this cycle is a clear snapshot of how a successful workplace environment requires the involvement of all functions whose focus is the physical work environment or workplace, which is why we refer to all these functions as workplace functions. So to line them all up, these are all the primary workplace functions that are required to drive and establish a successful workplace environment. Workplace strategy, corporate real estate, interior design, project management, facility management, safety and security, workplace services, workplace technology, DEIB or diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as it's supported in the physical space, and workplace sustainability. That's a lot. And the reason why this is significant is because it underlines not just the sheer number of functions required to drive and establish a successful workplace environment, but also the many different disciplines, competencies, and expertise it takes to run them. So when 94% of companies in America that have a policy involving workers working in the company workplace, when the leaders of these companies put pressure on their FM leaders and their real estate leaders to make decisions on the right office size, make decisions on the right costs to optimize, make decisions on how to bring people back to the office, what they first need to realize is that making the right decisions on a company workplace is not something that one or two entities alone can solve. Making the right decisions on a company workplace, especially in a hybrid environment, requires the involvement of all workplace functions. Fact number 3. Our collective success as workplace functions depends on breaking our silos. One of the main reasons why company leaders are not able to recognize that successful workplace environments require the involvement of all workplace functions is because in most situations, these workplace functions are working in silos from one another. They either sit under separate departments, exist as entities outside the organization, or in many situations, they work in the same department, but they work separately from one another. Now, this arrangement is not only a reason why our workplace industry as a whole is not recognized, but even more importantly, working in silos from one another is a huge barrier to our success, both as an individual function and as a collective. Let's talk about this for a minute. In fact, let's talk a little bit about how this specifically impacts the FM. I'm going to address all of the facility managers in the room for a minute, okay, if I may. How many of you have had the experience of being expected to maintain a newly renovated or a newly constructed facility without having been consulted prior to its construction? Ta-da! Okay, all right, well, how many of you are involved in the decision-making process for the interior design of your facility? Okay, all right, that's a bunch of you. Well, how many of you are involved in the lease negotiation process for the lease of your facility? Okay, it's funny because I see a lot of hands, which is fantastic, and then there's just fewer and fewer. Well, the unfortunate reality we face today is that even though successful workplace environments require the involvement of all workplace functions working together, the reality is we're not. And this is a barrier to our success. It also feels like a never-ending story that continues to be a major bane of our existence in FM. I mean, I've been coming to World Workplace for 3 years now. I'm sure many of you have been coming longer than I have. But in the 3 years that I've been coming here, I continue to have these conversations with FM leaders and workplace leaders around these same concerns of working separately from other functions. In fact, at World Workplace last year, how many of you went to World Workplace last year in Denver? Oh, a lot of you. Well, welcome back. Well, World Workplace last year, I was part of a panel discussion that was led by Wayne Weitzel. Wayne, are you here by any chance? Okay, well Wayne yesterday he was just named as a fellow, which congratulations to him, and he is this year's Corporate Facility Council President. And last year, he was facilitating the discussion called the collaborative ecosystem, debating the integrated approach to designing, building, and managing facilities. Now this discussion was developed in response to the all too common frustration that FMs are rarely asked to participate in the decisions in the design and build process, and yet are left with the responsibility of having to manage the repercussions of these decisions. How many of you are still experiencing this today? Okay, geez. Gosh, the horror stories I heard that many of you go through, it's incredulous. Well, at Facility Fusion last year, how many of you attend Facility Fusion? Are there a few that go? Okay, there's a few that go. All right, well, at Facility Fusion last year, I was part of this great group called the Mosh Pit. For those of you who are not familiar with the Mosh Pit, when they do a live session, it's very interactive, and they engage people in conversations around a variety of topics. Well, at Facility Fusion last year, I was part of the team that was facilitating the discussion around the topic of belonging. And my teammate, Jamal McNeil, who's one of the founders of the Mosh Pit, and I, we were astonished by the number of FMs who told us that they feel that they don't belong in their own corporate department, whether that's human resources or finance, because they felt that nobody else in their broader department really understood what they do. And they were frustrated with constantly having to explain to their managers what they do. How many of you can relate to this? Okay, wow, a lot of you. I know I can too, right? Geez. I've also had the great privilege of speaking at several different IFMA chapters over the last year, also around these very concerns. If you give me a minute, I'd like to do a special shout out to my homies from the Silicon Valley chapter. Thank you for being here. And the East Bay, if you have East Bay chapter representatives, awesome. Thank you for being here. And of course, the Oregon and Southwest chapter, woohoo! And also special shout out to the DC or the Capital chapter if you're here too. Ah, rock on, that's fantastic. Gosh, that's so, I hope that all of you are joining your local chapters at IFMA, really, because there is nothing like belonging to a community at IFMA that really lifts you up and wants you to succeed rather than pull you down. They want you to succeed so you succeed as a community. It's just wonderful. I hope that all of you are part of your own local chapter communities, because it's really cool. Well, as I was speaking at these different chapters and I was having conversations with many of these wonderful folks, a lot of FMs would also express their frustration of how they feel not so understood in their organizations, or not even valued, or many organizations don't even know what FMs do. Okay, wait, here's my favorite. Okay, here we go. How many of you have a department head or a manager that knows that FMs have 11 core competencies? Wow, not one of you has a department head that knows that, right? Yep. They don't even know that you have that many superpowers. Okay, just for the fun of it, I'm gonna come down there and I'm gonna see if anybody can name three core competencies. And just for your reference, there you go. These are the images. So who can name 3 core competencies? Is there anyone? Anyone? For just a few of you. Okay, yes, sir.
Occupancy and human factors, leadership and strategy, communication.
Whoa! Whoa! Hats off. What is your name? What is your good name, sir?
Brett Ward.
Brett Ward. Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations, Brett Ward. Looks like you know all 11. It's pretty fantastic. Can anybody name one more? Yes, ma'am.
Sustainability.
Whoa! Big one. And what is your good name? What is your name?
Oh, Renee Jackson.
Thank you. I know who you are, but for everybody else, she's like, oh, why are you asking me? Sorry. This is Renee Jackson. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate it. Well, I'm not surprised that, oh, you have one more. Okay, yes, sir. What?
Technology.
Oh, good one. And what is your good name?
Martin.
Martin. Thank you, Martin. Awesome. Gosh. Well, I'm not surprised that a lot of you didn't have your hands up. I would have been surprised if more of you did. Because that's 11 core. That is more superpowers than Superman has. So I don't know how all of you are able to remember any of them, really. So for everyone's reference, here are the 11 core competencies of a facility manager. Now, which one is the most popular? Which is the one that your manager does know that you have?
Operations.
Operations and maintenance. I know, isn't that funny? And they don't even realize you have all these other superpowers. Crazy. All right, so now I'm going to shake things up a little bit. Because while many managers, department heads, even colleagues may not understand what FMs do, we're not the only ones. When functions work in silos from one another, it's very difficult to understand what the other functions do, even when you're after the same goal. Let's talk about safety and security for a minute. Where are the safety and security professionals? Where are you? Okay, awesome. Okay, there you go. Well, I've had the wonderful privilege of speaking with many safety and security professionals over the last few years. And guess what? Many times, the bane of their existence is you. Sorry, FMs who put door stops on fire doors to keep them open. Right? Or, right, okay, angry one here. Or FMs who put boxes in front of fire exits just temporarily. Or FMs who move around their fire extinguishers. Okay, wait, how about this one? Use those fire extinguishers as door stops to those fire doors. Right? I'm sorry. Wow, I got a lot of anger in here. Or, okay, they're frustrated with construction project managers who don't consult with them during their renovation projects. Or when they're repairing those fire doors. No, okay, those fire doors, in fairness, are very specialized and very important pieces of equipment, correct? Am I right, safety and security professionals? Okay, so you do not mess with fire doors. If there's anything you walk away here with, it's that, okay?
Don't even try to repair them.
Okay, don't even try to repair them is what our safety and security professional is saying here. Yeah, we don't mess with them. Okay, let's move on. How about, let's talk about workplace technology for a bit. You know, workplace technology is actually a very hot topic on the IFMA Engage Forum. How many of you participate in the IFMA Engage Forum? Okay, awesome. That's a good number of you. Okay, cool. I think IFMA Engage Forum is really one of the great benefits of being part of IFMA, because it really gives us a chance to exchange best practices and ideas with professionals all around the world. It's been fascinating to read about things like what are professionals doing in Mexico versus in Europe versus in Asia versus in Canada. It's been fascinating. Well, as I was reading through the different IFMA Engage conversations, I did notice that there is a huge percentage of questions and conversations around the workplace technology solutions. Where are the workplace technology professionals? Where are you? Where are you? Where are the workplace technology? Okay, there you go. All right, so all FMs that have questions on workplace technology, the ones who raise their hands, they're the ones you go to, okay? They're right here. They're right here. With the speed of growth in technology, and AI in particular, I don't know about you, but I certainly cannot keep up with all the new innovations in workplace technology. I love that there's new innovations, but it's so hard to keep up. But did you know that figuring out the right workplace technology solutions is an actual discipline? I mean, these professionals have an expertise in understanding that cross-section between the physical environment, the workplace experience, and technology. Wouldn't you love to have someone like that on your team? To be able to advise you on the right software, hardware, systems to solve your particular concerns in the workplace? Wouldn't that be awesome? Or to be able to advise you on new systems or new software that will solve problems that you didn't even realize you have yet. Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, speaking of this cross-section of physical environment and the workplace experience, with so much emphasis now being placed on creating environments that people want to come and work in and that love working in, there is a renewed appreciation for the workplace services professionals. Okay, maybe many of you already know this, But these workplace services professionals are a special breed of humans. I mean, they have to have strong hospitality skills to be customer-centric and service-oriented. And they have to have strong coordination and communication skills because they're creating these workplace events and they're managing them and coordinating them. And then they have to have a strong business acumen because many of these workplace services have their own business models and P&Ls and marketing strategies. And then they have to have the creativity to constantly reinvent these services. Where are the workplace services professionals? Where are you? Where are you? Show your hands. You are rock stars! Awesome. Okay, workplace services professionals, if I can ask you to stand up for a minute. I just have a few questions. So just stand up. Don't worry, we're not gonna ask you to dance or sing or anything. Unless you want to. Just let me know.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so just stand up for a minute. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. Okay? If your answer to the question is yes, stay standing. If your answer to the question is no, sit down. Okay, and I want you to be as honest as possible. If you have colleagues in the room, ignore them. All right. So here's your first question. Do you feel that the real estate teams in your organization value what you do? Do you feel that the project management teams in your organization value what you do? I know we have one honest person. Teasing. All right, last question. Do you feel that all of these workplace functions value your contribution to their workplace objectives? Okay, now we lost them. We have a couple left. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. You can sit down. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. The challenges of working in silos from one another are real. And the crazy thing is that each of these workplace functions are so incredibly and equally vital to creating and establishing a successful workplace environment. But if we aren't able to value each of these workplace functions, how will we be able to leverage their superpowers to create successful environments? And even more importantly, how will company leaders be able to recognize that it takes all these workplace functions to build and establish successful workplace environments? That's why our collective success as workplace functions depends on breaking our silos. We have established 3 facts to be true. First, the decisions on a company workplace have a vital impact on business success because they drive both cost optimization for their assets and significant value for their people. Second, the success of a workplace environment requires the involvement of all workplace functions working together and the many different disciplines, competencies, and expertise that run them. And lastly, our collective success as workplace functions depends on breaking the silos that exist among us so that we can recognize the value that each of these functions brings to the decisions in driving a successful hybrid work environment. Of these 3 facts, the last one is also our call to action. What our industry needs is a leader, a new breed of leader, to be an integrator among our workplace functions, to bring all these functions to the same table, to leverage each of their respective expertise as equally vital contributors to the decisions in driving a successful hybrid work environment. But creating such a leader from scratch, it's nearly impossible. Almost as impossible as expecting company leaders to just hand one to us. What we need is a leader who already knows our 3 facts to be true, and who already possesses the core competencies needed to answer our call to action. Core competencies such as leadership, business and finance, communications, treating occupants as people, and understanding the practices and principles of many of these functions, including real estate, technology, sustainability, risk, and project management. Core competencies needed to answer our call to action. And that's not all. If you are a facility manager, whether or not you have your CFM, if you work in facilities in any capacity, please stand up if, in addition to your work in facilities, you also are involved in or develop your company's workplace strategy. Please stand up. Thank you. Stay standing. Join them in standing if, in addition to your work in facilities, you also manage the construction project management that goes on in your facilities. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you also manage the safety and security in your facilities. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you also make decisions on the technology for your workplace. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you also run your company's coffee program, food and beverage, events, reception services, and other workplace services. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you contribute to the decisions on the sustainability for your workplace. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you also contribute to the corporate real estate and interior design decisions in your company for any capacity. Stand up. Stay standing. Join them in standing if you care about creating an environment that fosters equity, inclusion, and belonging. Stand up. No other workplace function, no other workplace function has the skills, understanding, or experience across this many workplace functions as the FM. You are already the leaders that we need. You already have the core competencies and experience needed to answer the call for a new breed of leader in our industry. You can sit down. Where do you start? Break the silos. You know the different functions needed to make this workplace cycle work. Even if they sit in separate departments or exist outside the organization, you are in the best position to bring them all to the table. So here's how you start. You start by leveraging your own assets. As the operators of the facility, you hold both the quantitative data, such as badge reports, conference room utilization, visitor logins, etc., as well as all the qualitative data, including employee behavior around spaces and services. Both data sets are essential to making workplace decisions in a hybrid environment, and you own them. So, 2, extend your resources. If you know, for example, that your office lease is about to expire in the next couple years, reach out to your real estate teams and offer them your operational data. Include data such as your operational overheads, maintenance and utilities costs, because all this data will be essential to them as they evaluate whether to stay or go. And then in turn, ask them to include you in their lease evaluations and in their conversations with the interior designers and project managers. Extend your resources so that other resources will be extended to you. 3rd, initiate collaborations. You can leverage the assets and resources of all the other workplace functions and make decisions together. If you want to create an impactful workplace experience, for example, to help you draw people back to your office, please initiate collaboration sessions with your teams from workplace technology, workplace services, safety and security, even sustainability, and especially DEIB, because all of their insight will be valuable to that discussion. And lastly, leverage or measure your collective success. Measure the results of your collaborative efforts. Measure the impact of your collaborations as a collective cost driver. So your collective impact on CapEx and OpEx, as well as your collective impact on driving employee productivity, satisfaction, and success. And then report these successes upwards. You can leverage the results of your collective success to influence leadership and to help you establish the value that all these workplace functions have in the decisions in driving a successful hybrid work environment. No other workplace function has the skills, understanding, or experience across this many workplace functions as the FM. Together with your core competencies, you are our industry's best chance at becoming the integrator leaders that we need. 94% of companies in America have a policy involving workers working in their company workplace. In an era where hybrid policies are changing the ways people use our workplaces, then the call to lead the way and transform our workplaces to meet this moment is yours to answer. Thank you.